Picture this. You're running a marathon, and the first few miles feel great, but now you're exhausted. You can see the finish line off in the distance, but you're not there yet. The crowd is cheering, your heart is pounding, but you have a choice to dig deep and sprint to the end, or perhaps just slow down. But where we are in our Toastmaster year is just like that finish line. We need to sprint to the end. And because I was a runner, perhaps, Pim asked me to design something around getting to the finish line. So I'm going to give you an analogy of getting to that finish line. But this is a time of year when the smallest efforts can make the biggest impact. And the real question is, will your club finish strong or will it fall short? Well, tonight I'm going to share with you 3 strategies not only help your clubs that you're coaching finish the race, but cross the finish line as a winning team. And I'm going to stay in my running analogy with my 3 things. I'm going to talk about checking your pace, the power surge, and the finishing kick. All right. The 3 phases of this final sprint that we're in, we're going to check our pace. And what I'm really talking about, and Pim has already mentioned it, is accessing our club's progress. I'm talking about the clubs that we're coaching. No great runner just sprints blindly. They check their watch. They track their distance. They adjust their strategy. And in Toastmasters, our pace tracker really is the Distinguished Club Program, or the DCP. Now, Pim showed us just a couple minutes ago the DCP reports and where to find them. But do you know where your club stands today? Here, let me pull up mine. I hope you have me on speaker view so that you can see this. But by looking at this DCP report, you can see where a club is. You can see where your club stands. This is the one for the club that I'm coaching. And we can see that right now, as of March 31, they'll have a challenge April 1. But I'd like to point out a couple other things as we go through this. But looking at this, we can see that maybe they'll need to work on their members. But going on, are they completing their educational goals? And we see the educational goals right here at the top. And here we can see that they are currently sitting at 4 points. They need 5 for distinguished. So you have to get your educational points, as Pim just pointed out. But we can see that they have on level 2, they have 1 level 2, just 1 more person finishing a level 2 will bring them to the distinguished level for their educational points, actually overall points. But then all they'd have to worry about is making sure they have enough members come June 30th. But story time. I was working with a club last year that was struggling, and by March they had only 2 DCP goals, and their membership was slipping. But when they finally sat down and looked at the numbers, they realized that they were just 2 members away from the distinguished level. And that shift in mindset from we're struggling to we're almost there really motivated them to act. By June, not only had they hit distinguished, but they hit select distinguished. And the lesson here, folks, is that you can't win a race if you don't know where you stand. All right, here's my call to action for you. I want you to encourage your club leaders, the ones that you're coaching, to pull up their DCP reports this week and identify one of these key areas that they can improve immediately. I bet they're sitting right there and they can just take advantage of that. All right, part 2 of our running analogy is the power surge. And of course, that's going to be membership growth strategies. Now, in the races I went, when I saw that finish line, I wanted to give it all I had. And that's what I'm talking about here. In that last stretch, we want to dig deep and push harder in our efforts. In Toastmasters, that final push, of course, means bringing in new members. I will give you a few ways on how we can do this, and you know them all, but I'm going to remind you anyway. First one, guest-focused meetings. You want to turn every meeting into an experience that a guest is attracted to. I remember just a few weeks ago, we had a guest come into one of our clubs. And of course, at the end of the meeting, you always say, well, come on up and tell us what you thought of the meeting. She says, I love your agenda and how organized you are. This is something I want to be part of. That's the point here. Make your meetings so it's something that will attract guests. All right, second up is, and you know it, have that open house. In fact, a themed open house can really create excitement and attract additional guests. My club, Toast of Celebration, we are having an open house on April 8th, and you're invited to attend, but we made a theme to go along with it. And the theme of that is Entrepreneurial Day. And what we've done is to invite someone from the Small Business Administration to come and present a 20-minute talk on how to start a business. Then additionally, we have two more members who are entrepreneurs, and they're going to give their speeches on that day. So it makes it so much easier to advertise and reach out to both people that are thinking about Toastmasters and people that are thinking about starting a business. What a great combination. All right, our third thing is to attract or challenge your current members to invite a friend or coworker or family member. I remember a club I coached a number of years ago was struggling with low membership. They were sitting, I think it was at 10, and they were far from the 20 that they needed, or they weren't close to distinguished yet. But instead of giving up, they hosted an invite a friend or invite a guest raffle or contest. And every member was challenged to bring someone. And those who brought guests were entered into a raffle for a small prize. And in our meeting that we're going to have, our open house, our small prize is an entrepreneurial handbook by the Harvard Business Review. So everyone who brings a guest goes into the raffle to see who wins the book. And of course, we're advertising that along the way. What I'm getting at is just a little bit of creativity can go a long way and bring in extra members. Now, next, you want to leverage social media. You want to use LinkedIn, the company newsletters, work mail, emails to spread the word. But I got to tell you, and Becky, you are here. I want to applaud Meetup, because Meetup has been phenomenal in bringing members into our club. It really has. There was one week we had 14 visitors come in, and it's amazing. And most of them came through Meetup. So I'm saying, develop your Meetup, make it look very good. And for your clubs that you're coaching, Meetup is an awesome tool, and we're so fortunate to have it available to us. All right, here's your strategy, your challenge on this one is challenge your officers to start or implement at least one recruitment strategy right away and get it going. All right, now we're coming down to what we might call the finishing kick. And you know what it is member engagement and retention. And it's a part that we can't forget about. It's about gaining new members and keeping them engaged. And how do you best engage new members? I'll tell you, you assign them a mentor. Every new member needs a mentor, and it helps them become more connected, and they're more likely to stay. Secondly, we want to encourage speech completions. So we want to push our members to finish their educational goals. Let me see. Oh, here it is. I don't know if you have seen this on the TI website if you're a club officer, you can go see where your members are. And you can't see this very well, but if we have time after I'm done here, I can show you some screenshots of how to go about accessing this listing of all the members in your club, what pathway they're on, and additionally, where they are on each level. You can see if they finished a level or need to get started on the level. But it makes it so much easier to reach out to them because you now know where they are. And last year you couldn't see that, but this year it's so much better. All right, the third thing is to celebrate achievements. Now, I was in a TLI last year and Pim said it. She said, celebrate everything. Didn't you, Pim? I remember that. It's up in St. Augustine. But you're so right. If somebody finishes the level, you bring them up in front of the room and celebrate it, everything you can. And now I'm thinking back though, a club that I had worked with, they could recruit, they'd get people in, but they couldn't keep members. Now I'm going back to my mentor problem. But we discovered their problem is what they weren't giving their mentors any, they weren't giving their people mentors. And then the new people felt lost. Well, they started a simple membership program or mentorship, sorry, and they paired every new member with a mentor, and that mentor checked in weekly with them. And the result was that their retention just skyrocketed, and they finished as a President's Distinguished Club. So here's what I'm asking. Assign mentors to those new members, but additionally, have your members or your club officers, let's say, check in with inactive members and personally invite them to return. I know you've heard the saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And if your president is calling them, or your VPE or your VP of membership is calling them saying, we haven't seen you, John, in a couple of weeks, it's a good way to get them to come back. It really is. Now let's look at the final sprint. And let's be honest, this time of year is the moment. Right now we have the choice to coast to that finish line or give it everything we got. Now, here are those three strategies again. I want you to check your pace, know exactly where your club that you're coaching, where they stand with the DCP. Secondly, that power surge. Implement one of those ways of driving membership through a invite a friend contest or an open house, any of those. But do that. And then the finishing kick, you want to keep your current members motivated because you can't let them fall out the back when you're bringing them in the front door. But I've truly seen clubs go from struggling to distinguish in just a few months. I've seen members who are ready to quit and they stepped up to leadership roles. And I know as club coaches that we can help many more clubs cross that finish line successfully. Now, here's my last challenge to you. What step are you going to take to help your club finish strong? I hope you can write it down and commit to it, because this race isn't over and we can cross that finish line with a win. And that finish line is right down the road there. So let's make it a year to remember.